Hi, I'm Amanda and I make bad art. Sometimes on purpose, most times not on purpose. But I'm here to tell you and encourage you that making bad art is the best thing that you could ever do for your art practice. Growing up, I was the kid who had paper everywhere, paint everywhere, crayons everywhere, and I would show people my art all the time. And they would always say, "Good job," because that's what you tell a kid. You don't want to be mean to them, they're a kid, they're trying. The art that I made, however, I don't remember it. It probably ended up in the recycling bin, forgotten after a week. But the art that I do remember is the art that people were critical of, that people had enough courage to bring up and have critiques on. And this is the art that helps you improve. When you are in your first year visual arts course, you go through the critique as everyone does. And most of the time, everyone's bringing in bad art because we're new to things, we don't really know what we're doing. But because of these critiques, you are able to take information from people, feedback, and improve on it. And from that, your bad art can become some good art. Of course, critiques can be a really anxiety inducing thing because we're being vulnerable. We're bringing in stuff that we care about and then we're letting people rip it to shreds, which is not an easy thing to do. But as you get older with things and work more in your career, you start to realize that having people tell you that your art is bad is so much more beneficial than people telling you it's good, because if people tell you your art is good all the time, you're usually going to just leave it at that. But if people tell you that your art is bad, you're going to be constantly trying to work harder to improve on it and make it into something that is so called good. If you think about your favorite artists, most of them were highly critiqued by the people around them. They were not accepted, they were considered bad art, but their art is rememberable because of that. Their art was highly critical and people would see that and remember that. So, yes, it is time to recognize yourself as a bad artist and to make bad art. Sometimes it can be intentional, sometimes it's not, but we're here to push boundaries, to encourage self reflection, invite feedback, and we can find beauty in the things that we often dismiss or see as unattractive or not good. The term good and bad in art are very fluid, they're not fixed categories. They depend a lot on things like the time, trends, society. A lot of the times, it's also just personal preference. A lot of the things that you like are things that other people are not going to like, and that is okay. That's what makes art so fun and so beautiful because it's so personal for everyone. And as things change in our lives, also our perception of what we like is going to change too, so that will also constitute and change what we see as good and bad in our art. The bad art that you make now might end up being revolutionary later on, so don't give up on your art. You never know the impact that it might make on you, on someone else, in this time or in the future. Don't give up on it because bad art can always change and become good. Okay, so let's talk about some things that I do to set up my bad art for success. The first thing that I do is the mindset that I bring to the table when I'm making my art. I am someone who very firmly believes in the process over the product. We are conceptual over here. We are here to remind ourselves that the process of what we make, the learning that we're doing, is always better than how it looks in the end. This can be sometimes hard to convey to the viewer because if you are in a gallery and you're looking at a piece of work, sometimes it's hard to see like how they got to that final piece. But because we live in the lucky age of social media, we are able to record things on our phones at all times. We're able to share that process with our viewers, and that can be so good because at the end of the day, if my piece looks bad, but maybe you might learn something, might find some value in the process of how I made it, and that might also speak to the final product of the art. I know sometimes it might feel like a chore or you're being held back having to record your work all the time. But if you think about it as recording the story of your piece, it can really be such a valuable thing and can really contribute to making your bad art set up for success. The next thing that I'm so conscious about is just the emotions of a piece, how it makes me feel, how I think it will make others feel. And usually, how I think it will make people feel is always completely opposite. But I know we usually classify that if art can make you feel something, it's good art. So I always try to focus on, regardless of how I feel like it's going to be, how it looks, as long as it gives a story, it gives some emotions, that's good enough for me. Let's talk about The Comedian for a second. It's a piece by Maurizio Cattelan and it's a banana taped to a wall, but it's an extremely criticized work that also critiques consumerism and the art world in general. This piece is highly talked about and also went viral because of what it does. It provokes so many emotions from people: confusion, anger, just thinking, what are we doing here? Because this is a simple banana being duct taped to a wall. But what it does, it invites such a huge criticism of the art market, of consumerism in general, of why we do the things that we do. And it's a reason why it is art. It is considered to be bad art that's made good because of the way that it lets us talk about it and the way that it lets us think and evokes emotion from it. But see how we're able to talk so much about a piece of work that is about a banana? Because this art was able to evoke emotions from so many people that were able to talk about it, whether they felt positive about it, whether they felt negative about it. Everybody was still talking about this piece. So when you're making your art, a top priority for you should be, how is this piece going to make people feel? And also, how does it make you feel? Because it can be very therapeutic doing art in that way. But a lot of the times, people don't even remember what they see. They will remember more, however, how they feel. The last point I have for you is to always remember that nothing is final. When you are making your art, layering is key. If you have flaws, that's completely okay. You can always hide your mistakes, or you could even emphasize them. You could build layers of your inconsistencies, and it can just show the process of your trial and error. The beauty of making bad art is that it reminds everyone that you are human. You are a person with feelings, with soul, with technique that can be worked on. You are something that can be improved, and that should be celebrated. I think viewers, when they're very new to things, they automatically think that if there is a flaw, if there is imperfection, it is bad. But sometimes that is something that is so beautiful and that makes it good when you're able to see the imperfections in the art. When you're able to see that a human has made this, that a human has put time and love into a piece of work, and that's what makes it so beautiful. There are so many examples in my art of where I've made a mistake and I just cover it up. I don't even think twice about it. It's something where if I used to do that, I would get really frustrated and think that my piece is ruined, but it's not. When you make mistakes, it's just a reminder that you're trying, and it can honestly make a piece even better. It's making a statement that you are here, you are trying your best, you are here to make work, and you're here to learn. And at the end of it all, if a piece just bothers you so much that you think it's so bad, you can always cover it up, you can start new, you can start fresh, and you can try again. So go forth, make so much bad art, practice and practice and practice, and eventually that bad art that you make will become good art. And then it'll become bad again, and then it'll become good art, and it'll become bad art, and become good art. And then somehow you'll still feel free enough to continue making something more.